Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of To the Byline. I'm joined again by Ben, Matty, and Paul, and we're going to go over our fixtures that we predicted and talk about the games, talk about them a bit more in depth, what we think the fallout will be from those results, and also looking at some of the other topics that have come about as a result of that, such as Brendan Rodgers and him leaving the Leicester job. So we can start off at Leicester. Leicester played away to Crystal Palace. Roy Hodgson's first game back in charge. And Crystal Palace won. And ultimately it cost Brendan Rodgers his job. So we'll go around and start with Ben. What do you think, of the game? And what do you think of the fallout as a result of it?
Well, just to make it clear, I said 2-1 to Palace in my prediction. I knew it was going to happen. I knew they was going to win. I think the whole new manager effect is something that is real. It doesn't always happen, of course, but I just assumed that with Hodgson coming in, the fans probably love him there, being a bit of a cult hero and stuff. But yeah, I could see them winning. And I think if you look at the game, I think they had, 32 shots, was it, Palace?
Yeah.
Which is more than they've had in the last 5 games put together. Admittedly, they've had hard games, but still, it's a big improvement.
Matty, what do you think about the game?
Well, I didn't actually catch the game. I was out, unfortunately. But
get him off.
I had a family event to attend to. But when I seen the result, obviously the first thing sprung to mind was obviously new manager took over. He's been there before. He knows the players. Maybe he's changed a couple of aspects of the way they play and the way he does business, and it's pulled off. Like Ben said, 32 shots in a game. That's more than what they've had in 5 or 6 games. Even though they only scored 2 of them, it was enough to win. And I think obviously it sounds like it's fully deserved.
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, Boring Roy came back in, didn't he? And just did Boring Roy stuff.
I was still laughing on the last episode where he called him an owl.
Looks like an owl. 100% looks like an owl.
Eating mice on the touchline.
On the side of the pitch, eating a mouse, you wouldn't be surprised. the only thing I like about having him back in it is his assistant, Ray Lewin, has never never wore trousers in his life. He's always got shorts on.
So, obviously, the amount of shots that Crystal Palace had during the game, for me, I expected when Roy Hodgson would come back in, he'd try and make Palace tough to beat, but they was already tough to beat under Vieira.
Yeah, all they were missing was goals. That's it. I think they went 3 games at one point without having a shot on target.
Yeah.
They didn't have one single shot in 3 games. But he's come in and he knows that they're pretty solid defensively, so he just gives the forward players the freedom to get forward. But I think Vieira would have won that game as well.
Yeah,
I don't think he's won a game that is anything special. Leicester are rubbish, and he took advantage of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Vieira would have won that game. I agree with the comments that were made on the last call about how you look at the fixtures that Palace have had. I think Vieira was unfortunate to lose his job, and I think that this Leicester game now would have been. I think if you're the owner of Crystal Palace and you're looking at the fixtures that Palace have had, you look at this Leicester game as being the decider for you. Like, depending on how Palace play, depending on the result, maybe you use that as the base as to whether or not Vieira is the right man for the job. But then
I think he panicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
I agree.
But then as a result of that, Brendan Rodgers has now lost his job. What do you guys think of that?
Brendan Rodgers was talking out about the board and the fans and the players 10 games ago, and it was a surprise to see he was still in charge at this time of the season. I thought he'd have got sacked probably maybe before January, but he kept it somehow. And for me personally, we can't stand here and say manager should be given time. He's had 3 years.
Yeah.
They haven't backed him though. He hasn't been backed. He's been given no money.
You could probably say that, and I agree with that, but still.
He's one of the favourites to get the Tottenham job now.
Oh God.
I don't see, because like Rodgers, he done well at Swansea. He went to Liverpool. He did okay to start off with, but then towards the end he kind of lost his way. He then goes to Celtic. He does well there. He then goes to Leicester.
My nan could have done one at Celtic.
I was going to say, can you not do well at Celtic?
Well, yeah, that's true. But then at Leicester, when he started off, he actually wasn't doing that bad with Leicester. They looked like a good team. I think they were hovering around the top 4 sort of area for a while. Then, like,
well, they blew top 4 of 2 seasons, didn't they? And they won an FA Cup.
Yeah,
like they could have been in the top 4 in 2 of his seasons, and they won an FA Cup.
yeah.
So he's not done bad there. It's just over the last. It's since they stopped putting money into the club. As soon as they couldn't afford to back him anymore, then it starts to sink. If you don't refresh your squad, you don't go anywhere.
I think as well, he hasn't really been set on a particular formation, because I think he started the season off with 5 at the back because every other team decided to adopt that formation. Then he kind of went back to a 4-3-3. Then I think he went to 4-2-3 or 4-1. What like I don't think he's kind of set in how he wants to play. And I'm not saying that they've been terrible all season. Like, I mean, results suggest they have, but they haven't played terribly in a lot of the games.
I think he's stuck with the fact that he hasn't got good enough players.
I think they were unlucky in some games as well. I think the Man U game stands out to me. They could have been 2 or 3-0 up in that game. They actually played really well. They looked good. They looked good going forward, but they just couldn't find the goal. And I think it's unfortunate when you look at the situation they're in. They have been selling players left, right, and centre. They're not replacing them with anybody. Like, you're losing players like Schmeichel in goal, Fofana.
I've currently got a problem. I'm being shouted.
Okay. I'll continue my point. Yeah, so you look at the players they're selling, and they're getting rid of them for big money. Like Fofana, what did he go for? Something along the lines of 70 million.
They haven't reinvested that cash, have they? That's the problem. They've got 70 million for one player. Even if you just pump 30 million back in to try and strengthen that squad, I mean, they've still got a 35, 36-year-old Jamie Vardy up top.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he can't do it no more, because he probably could, but how long is he going to last? He can't probably play 38 games a season at 90 minutes a game.
I think that's another problem that Leicester will have, though. Let's say, for example, Rodgers does somehow manage to get... let's say Rodgers did somehow manage to get Leicester out of trouble. He kept his job and everything was going quite well for them. The next thing will be, like, where do they go next season? Because obviously, as you say, Vardy's not getting any younger. They've got a few other players in their squad who are reaching that age now where they probably starting to look at winding down their career, and they've got a massive sort of problem on their hands in terms of they still need to replace the players that they've already sold, as well as potentially replacing an aging squad at the same time.
Schmeichel's a big one. Losing Schmeichel and not bringing in a recognised or a decent goalie and replacing with Danny Ward was a mistake on either Rodgers' part or the board for not supplying the funds for that replacement.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I mean, in their scenario now, in their position, like, what kind of manager do you bring into replace? And do you want someone that's just steadies the ship and just makes them that stubborn 12th place Premier League team again? Or do you kind of take that risk and say, look, we're going to get an exciting manager, someone who can play a bit of football and try and change the dynamics of Leicester? It's a tricky one, really.
I think personally the best thing that they can do is bring in someone. It's going to sound like a completely out there suggestion, but someone like Steve Bruce, who could potentially get them out of a relegation battle, keep them in the Premier League this season, and then maybe look at the start of next season to bring in a young and exciting manager if you wanted to, or stick with someone like Steve Bruce and have a couple of seasons to just re-establish yourself.
Would Bruce keep Leicester up this season if he went there now?
Steve Bruce is a dinosaur.
I mean, he's looking for a job. He hinted about.
He's not for me. He's not a Premier League manager anymore. Steve Bruce, to go from Brendan Rodgers to Steve Bruce, I think he's too much of a step backwards.
So, what would you do now then? Who would you bring in if you're Leicester?
Who's available that's got Premier League experience that
Patrick
plays
Vieira.
football
Patrick Vieira's
in a
available.
way that matches? Because Steve Bruce, he'll come in, he'll play like he won't play football that you enjoy, and that's the one thing that Leicester have been moaning about with Brendan Rodgers is that his football wasn't as exciting as it could have been.
You got Fat Frank, ain't you? Steven Gerrard. Both out.
Yeah, they're not bad shouts, to be fair.
I
For
don't.
Leicester.
If you're Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard, though, given what's currently happened to both of their careers, would you want to go and take a club which is looking likely to go down? Because once you have that relegation on your CV, it's a difficult thing to come back from.
But then if to keep him up as well, that's
True.
something good to have on your CV, and it's a bit of...
Lampard took that risk with Everton and he kept them up, admittedly on the last day, in the last 10 minutes of that game or whatever it was. But
I think you've got nothing to lose. I think you go in there, they get relegated, you go, well, what did you want? I don't want miracles. You go in there, you save them. It adds something to your reputation, don't it?
Yeah. So do we think that Leicester could go down this season?
Absolutely. Second from bottom.
Would you put them in your bottom three, in other words? Or do you think that they'll survive?
The way they're playing and everything they've been doing, yeah, I would. I reckon they've got a massive chance of getting relegated this year.
I think if you'd have asked me like 5-6 games ago, my bottom three would have been Southampton, Everton and Forest. But I mean Southampton are almost certain they're going to go. They're just not good enough, Southampton. They can't really buy anything at the moment.
What are the runnings? What's Leicester's running compared to like Bournemouth's running and Leeds is running? Because that's what it's going to come down to.
I mean, Leicester's got Villa, Bournemouth, and Man City. I think it is the next 3 games. Which, to be honest with you could probably see them not even picking up anything out of them 3 games.
Well, they could go to Bournemouth and easily put quite a few past Bournemouth.
I mean, Bournemouth's the game, right? But I mean, Bournemouth are fighting for their lives as well. And
what I would say, sorry to interrupt, what I would say is quite good if you're a Leicester fan is that you're playing Villa at home, Bournemouth at home. You then go to Man City away, which most teams would say it's a write-off anyway. Then you have Wolves at home, Everton at home, Liverpool at home, and then West Ham at home. They've got a lot of the teams, obviously exclude Liverpool from that list, but a lot of the teams that are in and around them, they play them at home, which they'll be thinking that they can start picking points up from those games.
That's a running that you want all day long.
It's the one that you want. Yeah.
Everton, they're going to look at Bournemouth and go, there's 3 points. Everton's 3 points. There's 6 points within the next few games.
Bournemouth are a dodgy team, though, as well, aren't they? The win, they beat Liverpool, and then they lose to somebody shocking, but then they beat Fulham the weekend 2-1, and Fulham have had
But they've only won 2 in 12.
Bournemouth,
yeah.
But I'm not saying they're going to win every game, but it's just one of those teams that if you play them on the day that they fancy it, it's tough to turn them over.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on to the other fixtures. So we will go to Man City against Liverpool. I think we all had Liverpool down to lose that game and Man City to win it. Did anyone expect it could be a 4-1?
I said 4-2, so yeah.
I said 3-1.
3-2, I said. When Liverpool scored the first goal, I thought, bloody hell, they could grab another. And it just, second half was just an absolute walkover for Man City.
Yeah.
It really
just
was.
Awful.
It was.
My thoughts are that I think Liverpool can be very thankful that Pep Guardiola likes Jurgen Klopp, because if he wanted to, he could have just told Man City to go out there and score 7. And they would have done.
I think you're lucky Haaland was injured.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there was a comment that was made during the game by one of the commentators. I can't remember which one that I quite agreed with. I think Liverpool find Haaland not easier to defend against, but the way that Alvarez played, I think Liverpool struggled with that because he did drop deep, he did run in behind, he was moving about, he was playing the passes. He was actually
when
really
Man City
good.
haven't got Haaland on, they look for different ways to score. They don't just look when Haaland's on the pitch for some reason. They seem to just go, let's ping the ball in at Haaland, and let's hope that every touch he takes, he ends up in a goal. And quite often it does end up in a goal. But when they don't have Haaland on, they look to... Grealish had the best game I've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the way that Grealish played, if it wasn't for him running back and tracking Salah, that's 2-0 to Liverpool. And then you're thinking Liverpool might actually do this, but he runs the length of the pitch to defend that pass to stop the ball getting squared. And then he's
tracking back.
Yeah, then up the other end, he's creating goals, scoring goals. Like he actually,
he's had Trent on toast every time he went forward.
Yeah.
But I think even if Liverpool get that second goal, so if Grealish misses it and Gakpo puts it in, I still don't. I mean, it is saying it was 4-2, but I still don't think Liverpool in that position would have won the game. I still think Man City would have.
Possibly not, but I just see at the moment Liverpool to me seem like a very confidence-based team. Like when they play against Man United, they went in half-time 1-0 up. That then brings that confidence. They then score the second goal at the start of the second half. Then suddenly their tails are up. They're going out there. They're playing nice football. You look at Bournemouth, for example. When Bournemouth scored against Liverpool, the confidence seemed to go from them, and they just didn't really have any idea of what to do. And then the same against Man City. When Man City scored their second goal, it almost looked like the confidence was completely sucked out of Liverpool, and they just didn't know what to do. Like I've never, of all the games that have been frustrating to watch Liverpool play this season, that was the most frustrating because we looked like a team of basically non-league footballers up against Man City. We didn't know what to do. We wasn't sure how to play. The players didn't know what they were meant to be doing at certain times, and then, you know, towards the end of the game, you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold running and closing down the goalkeeper. And I'm there, and then throwing his arms up in the air, asking the rest of the team why they aren't doing it. And I'm there thinking, you should have been doing that down the other end when Grealish was tearing you apart.
Yeah. It was just...
So that's something you got to look at the manager at, though. If you think the players don't know what they're doing,
I think
surely that comes from a management.
I think in that game, I would look at Klopp. I think he made some mistakes. I think the time that it took for him to bring on Darwin was too long. The game was already lost at that point, and bringing on Núñez is like, what do you expect him to do? If he brings on Darwin, say when we're 2-1 down, he's gonna actually create something. He has the ability to scare defenders because he's unpredictable. He's fast. He can actually create something. But then it just looked like, I think even Klopp at some point just went, okay, well, we'll chuck on Oxlade-Chamberlain. Let's see what he can do. There wasn't any idea as to why you bring on Oxlade-Chamberlain. Like, what is it that you want these players to do at this point in time? And it's quite scary to be a Liverpool fan because I don't think Liverpool have got a plan B. I think
that's the same situation as they've had for the last couple of years, isn't it? Really,
we haven't needed one because our plan A was so good, but now it's been exposed that when plan A,
I think the gaps between like the Liverpool players, like the defensive midfield and attack, Man City was just finding them too much, and then by the time Liverpool players got out to them, there was always another 2 or 3 Man City players around with another 10 yards of space. It was so easy for them.
Yeah,
Man City, even in the back end of the first half, really. But certainly after they got the second goal straight away, and then the next 5 minutes, the game just turned, and it was always going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think do you think Liverpool can recover now? Obviously, the next game is Chelsea away, followed by Arsenal at home. Like, do you see a Liverpool recovery on the horizon, or do you think that you just write this season off now?
With the way Liverpool have been this season, they could go and put 4 past Chelsea and then beat everyone else that they come up against, and then lose to whoever's at the bottom of the league again. They've just been so inconsistent with their performances that you don't know what Chelsea you're going to get, not what Liverpool you're going to get. You could get one that puts 7 past United, or one that whimpers across the line against Bournemouth.
Yeah. So, Man City obviously winning the game. I think most people would have expected Man City to win the game. I think I can sum up the whole conversation we could have at Man City and just go, good, aren't they?
It's true though, isn't it? Like
just real good, aren't they? Just
same conversations every time we talk about
them. Yeah.
Right.
Pep's amazing. They play amazing. They're scary. When they're at their best, they're scary.
Yeah. I thought that they were rubbish because they never scored 5.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
do
But,
we?
like we said in the last episode, like we can't really see Man City losing another Premier League game this season, and
No.
if they do drop points, it's going to be
Arsenal.
a bit of a shock. And I think they'll beat Arsenal. To be honest, I think Arsenal are good, but they're also very, in a similar way to Liverpool, they're very expressive. And
I just think
kind of that.
with the games that Man City have got, Arsenal is probably going to be the only team left that are going to actually give them a game.
Of course, yeah. Arsenal,
And
are
they're just Man City Junior, aren't they?
Yeah, so if they're going to drop points, it's probably going to be dropped against Arsenal, whether that's a draw or if Arsenal beat them. But I think that's the only game I can see where City will actually drop points.
That's
the
game I think that could potentially decide that'll decide the winner. If Man City can beat them.
Yeah.
But they've got Southampton next. I think then they got the Champions League, haven't they, against Bayern, and then they got, was it Leicester? I think Chris said, like 2 games after, and then they've got Arsenal then, which is the back end of the month. So
26th of April, that one.
You look at Arsenal's fixtures as well. I mean, they obviously beat Leeds 4-1. Very good performance again from Arsenal. They just look really good at the moment. But they have their next fixture is against Liverpool.
Yeah.
Then they have West Ham away, Southampton at home, Man City away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle away, Brighton at home.
That Newcastle game's a big game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can see Arsenal dropping points there. As bad as Chelsea have been, like you wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea turned up at Arsenal with it being like a local rivalry, and either nicking a win or getting at least a point out of that game if that happens.
I mean, Chelsea look poor, though, don't they?
Yeah.
Even the game they won last week. Before international, they just look poor.
And then Newcastle, they won today against Man United. Look really good again. They seem to have hit form again going towards the end of the season. The kind of the time you would want to hit that form. They seem to have done it. Brighton, never an easy game, even though it'd be at the Emirates. So I do think that Man City will be looking at the fixtures now, thinking they have a real chance of closing that gap.
You would, as a fan player, you would. You'd assume that it's not over.
Yeah. So do you think though? I mean, you look at Man City's running as well. They have obviously Arsenal, Fulham, West Ham, Leeds, Everton, Chelsea, Brentford. You would expect Man City to not lose a game there.
So I mean, that's why we said last week. You just can't see them dropping any points. If they do, it's probably going to be quite a surprise.
Yeah, and then going back to Liverpool, do we think that they have a realistic chance of making top 4? Looking at their upcoming fixtures, they have Chelsea away, Arsenal at home, Leeds away, Forest at home, West Ham away, Spurs at home, Fulham at home, Brentford at home, Leicester away, Villa at home, and then end the season against Southampton away.
They're 8 points away from it now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Top 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think they'll make top 4.
That's a big gap, that is, for this stage of the season.
Yeah, I agree.
To expect Newcastle, Man U, Tottenham, Brighton all to...
Yeah, everyone above them's got to
5
slip up.
yeah.
If anything, Southampton will beat them last game of the season to avoid relegation.
Well, you would kind of hope as a Liverpool fan. You're hoping at that point the bottom sort of 3 are already wrapped up, and then hopefully you're going to Southampton that have either just about survived or just about gone down. Obviously, if you go to that game and Southampton need to win to stay up, I would probably back Southampton at the moment.
You'll be in a game. It's horrible, that relegation. Relegation battle, or whatever you want to call it.
Even when teams are dead and buried and got nothing to play for, they end up pulling results out of the bags on teams.
True.
We've experienced that a lot being a Blues fans.
But the thing is, though, as well, like when we talk about Liverpool and the conference, like you're a Liverpool fan, Chris, and even you just said, you wouldn't fancy yourself against Southampton in a game that matters, and that's probably shared with 80% of the fan base at the moment, which
I think
is quite nerve-wracking.
I think the majority of Liverpool fans are happy to just say, if we're not going to make Champions League this season, let's just not make Europe at all. Don't get into UEFA or conference or anything like that. Spend money in the summer, bring in the new players, then go again next season.
But who are you going to bring in the summer if you're not in the Champions League?
Because Bellingham won't go there.
I think Liverpool are still a big enough club to attract players if they have one season out of the Champions League. You look at what they've achieved in recent times. They've won the Champions League. They've won the Premier League. Under Klopp, they've won every single trophy available. I think that a player that goes to Liverpool will probably take the fact that, okay, not this season, but next season I'm going to be playing Champions League football.
I think you lose that on Bellingham.
He's Bellingham, and people like that are going to go, oh, let's not. He's already got Champions League football at Borussia Dortmund. So he's not going to take a step back from that to go to Liverpool if they've not got Champions League.
I agree, but I'm sceptical about whether the Bellingham deal is actually like a on for Liverpool. Like, we as a club, we can't afford to go out and spend a lot of money. So do we want to spend our entire transfer budget on one player versus would we rather look to bring in 3, 4, 5 quality players that probably aren't on the same level as him but can rejuvenate the whole squad?
I think Bellingham rejuvenates your whole squad just on his own.
But I don't think just Jude Bellingham alone makes you win the league next season.
No, that's what I'm saying.
There's fundamental problems there. Like, defensively, you're not looking that good at all. Like, I don't think Van Dijk has looked like a leader this season.
No.
Compared to the previous few. Trent, we all know his inabilities to defend. And then you've got 2 or 3 midfielders where if they left Liverpool tomorrow, they'd probably get a bottom of the Premier League team in terms of replacements. So there's a whole change that needs to happen. I think if you've got 100 million, I think Liverpool would be better to spend that on 3 players than getting Bellingham and lose out on him.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it'd be lovely to be in a situation where we could just go out there and buy Bellingham. But I think if it's going to cost over 100 million, we need another centre back. We probably need another right back. And then in terms of centre midfielders, you're talking Oxlade-Chamberlain's going, Keita's going, Milner's going. Henderson is not in the position to start every game now. Henderson should be doing the job that Milner should have been doing this season, where you only come on if needed when that experience is there, but by and large, you're looking at someone else. Fabinho, I wouldn't be heartbroken if Fabinho left as well. I think as a defensive midfielder, he hasn't looked very good. So you're talking we need at least 2 centre midfielders plus a defensive-minded midfielder. Luckily for us, our strike force is sorted.
Your strike force is fine for another year or 2.
Yeah, and sure, our strike force and left back are fine. It's every other position.
And goalkeeper.
And goalkeeper, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
But moving on to another top 4 battle. Newcastle faced Man United today, where they won the game 2-0. Newcastle looked obviously very, very good, and they've now leapfrogged Man United in the table. The thing that surprised me about Newcastle is you look at where they were last season and all the problems that they've had before Eddie Howe comes in. He hasn't, would you say he spent a lot of money to get Newcastle where he is? Or would you say Newcastle are playing well because of what Eddie Howe has done? Well, I think Isaac cost them 60 million. They've brought in Bruno Guimaraes. Obviously, Nick Pope has come in. Anthony Gordon's come in.
For the previous year, £221 million.
So is it kind of highlighting that now to break into the top 4, you need to be owned by super rich people?
I think that was already highlighted. I think everybody knew that to begin with. That if you want to do anything in the Premier League, then you need the money.
But the thing is, I think if you have like Lampard or Brendan Rodgers at Newcastle at the start of the season, I don't think that'd be where they are now.
No, potentially not. No, Eddie Howe's a really good manager. I don't knock that. I think but if he hadn't got 220 odd million to spend, they're still down the bottom end of the table.
Yeah. And do you think that Eddie Howe, do you think he's the manager that's going to be there for the long term to bring them titles, trophies.
I think the first moment Eddie Howe doesn't do something that the board want, so whether he makes top 4 or doesn't then get top 4 again, Eddie Howe be gone and they'll bring in a superstar manager.
Yeah.
Which I like, because then we can have Eddie Howe at England.
Yeah.
Here's the natural. I mean, we spoke about this in episode 1, Rob, but here's the natural. Eddie Howe at England, I think we win a trophy. I'm that confident that we do it.
I agree. Like, watching the way that Newcastle played today, they stopped Man U from being able to build any kind of momentum in the game. As soon as Man U got the ball into Newcastle's half, they were on them, winning the ball back, and straight away they were looking, okay, how can we hurt them? Like spreading the ball wide to St. Maximin or to, I forgot the guy's name on the opposite side.
Joe Willock, was it?
No, Willock was in the centre. It was the other guy. But straight away they were looking to push the ball forward and just really kind of like push. It reminded me in some ways to the way that Man City play, where they try and pen teams in and suffocate them high up the pitch. Newcastle looked very similar. As soon as Man U got the ball, they were trying to like suffocate them and restrict the amount of space that they've got. And I think like Man United not having a shot on target for the whole of the first half just shows how well Newcastle actually played. So, do you think now that Newcastle are third, that we're seeing sort of the new top 4 come about with Arsenal, Man City, Newcastle, Man United? I
don't think just yet, because I think one, you've got a bit of they've taken advantage of a Chelsea rebuild, and obviously Man U being where they are. Arsenal then pushed to the top. I think they've taken advantage of the fact that you've got a few teams that are in a rebuilding stage, and they've then pumped 200 million into their squad, which has then given them a bit of a leapfrog over everyone else. I think the most impressive thing they did today was Eddie Howe noticing that a change needed to happen to get the best of the game at the time, and he made a couple of changes and completely killed off United. He noticed that he could do it, and he did it, and that's what I think is the most impressive thing about him as a manager. Is he reads the game well, knows when to use his substitutes, and then makes the most of it when he gets the chance.
Yeah, and
then Eric Ten Hag did the exact opposite.
Some of the changes Ten Hag made, I question them. Like, why was Weghorst on for so long when he clearly offered absolutely nothing to the game? I think Weghorst had fewer touches than the goalkeepers, which says a lot.
Why are you taking all your centre backs off?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's what I didn't get, but that's just backing up Paul's point as well. Like, as soon as he took off Varane and Martinez and brought on Lindelof and whoever else it was, like Eddie Howe knew that, and all of a sudden the balls were just being pumped into the box.
Yeah,
they was going to get that second goal. Yeah. It was inevitable that it was going to happen, and I think with Man U as well, I think what we found is that from a second half basis, they don't do as. I mean, they didn't do great in the first half, but for some reason, the second half they just seem to peter off. And
when they're bad, they're really bad.
Yeah.
Man U.
I've noticed that with Man U, they're like a team of extremes. They either look really good, or they look really bad. Like there's for example, against Betis, Man United looked really good in the first leg. I didn't watch the second leg, but in the first leg they looked like they could score.
Against Barcelona as well.
Yeah, against Barcelona they looked really good.
Barca.
But then when they, for example, at Anfield, they look really bad. Today they look really bad. And I think that Newcastle capitalised on it. So, do we think that Newcastle will be? So obviously, they're level on points with Man United now. Both of them are on 50 points. They're ahead of them on goal difference, with Newcastle having plus 22 and Man United having 4. Do we think this would be the top 4, or do you expect?
Yeah, I think the top 4 you've got now is your top 4. Newcastle and Man United might swap places, but.
Well, there's I mean, there's no word on the Tottenham manager yet, but there's a big game with Newcastle v Tottenham on the back end of April, and if it's close at that point, depending on who Tottenham get, that could be the 6 pointer there.
And obviously, Tottenham are still playing tomorrow as well. So let me just double check who they got tomorrow. Everton away from
Everton,
home. Which, the way that Tottenham have been playing lately, you could kind of see Everton doing something there. Obviously, at Everton are fighting for their lives. They've got Paul's favourite manager in charge now. You wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham went there and Everton got the 3 points, or at least got a point to kind of derail Tottenham that little bit more.
Depends who they get as well in charge. So they're going to try and impress. So could go either way, really.
Sean Dyche doesn't get the respect he deserves.
But if you're Tottenham, like, just going off on a bit of a sidetrack, so obviously there's,
You get Sean Dyche in.
aside from that, like, a lot of people have been talking about the next manager that Tottenham are going to bring in. They're talking about the guy who's just left Bayern Munich. There was talk about Pochettino coming back. Yeah, Nagelsmann.
Is it Nagelsmann?
And there was talk of Pochettino coming back. Like, if you're a top class manager and you've seen the likes of what's happened to Conte, you've seen what's happened to Jose Mourinho, you can probably forget about Nuno Santos. Like, would you want to go and take that Spurs job? Because it looks like a poison chalice to take over that role.
I don't know, because you'll get a lot of fans that criticise Daniel Levy and stuff. But what you got to think with Daniel Levy is that with the community that he's built as well, like, if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be in the position that they are now. And yeah, he probably is a bit stingy here and there, but he's also given Conte a lot of money to spend.
It's one thing getting you to where you need to, like, getting them to where they are, but then eventually you've got to stick with the pack. You've got to be willing to back it. And I think their biggest problem at the moment is whoever's in charge of their recruitment doesn't know a good footballer, doesn't know what they need, doesn't know who to buy. And for the first time ever, I think Daniel Levy let somebody buy a bloke who was over, like, how old was Perisic?
He's like 31, I think.
Daniel Levy never in a million years would have let anyone buy a 31-year-old.
Yeah.
He's all about buying in young players that one can go straight into the first team, and then when it comes to time for them to move on, he can make a profit on them.
Yeah, there's a lot of criticism with Daniel Levy, and I don't know more than what the Tottenham fans know, but I think he's done a decent stint there. I think getting rid of him isn't going to put Tottenham in the top 4 or win the Premier League.
I think the problem is they see him do all these, like, they have the NFL there and they have all these concerts and they do all these things, and it's things that drum up money, but then I don't think the Spurs fans feel like they see any of that money.
Potentially, it'd be good for Spurs fans to comment and let us know. I think there's probably two sides to the story with it, but
yeah, I think from a supporter of a club other than Tottenham, you don't like Levy because, like, you look what happened with Harry Kane, for example. Any other club probably bows down to that, but Levy stands his ground and says, "No, you're not leaving for what was the figure he said? Was it 150 million?
Yeah, sort of.
And you kind of think realistically, no club's going to pay 150 million for Harry Kane. Like, I can see why Levy done it when it's Man City that comes into it, but it kind of, from an outside point of view, you kind of think, well, it's a bit unrealistic, and that's part of the reason why money's getting so crazy in football nowadays.
Yeah, but transfer targets aren't about what the player is actually worth. It's about what they are worth to that club.
Yeah.
Jack Grealish in a million years was never worth £100 million, but to Aston Villa he was worth 100 million because they had nobody else as good as him. Harry Kane to Tottenham is close to being priceless, so you've got to put a price tag on him that makes it worth selling. Otherwise, you wouldn't sell him. That's what I like about Dan. That's what I like about Daniel Levy is he doesn't let anyone take him for ransom. He doesn't go, well, you're going to leave. He just goes, you've got a contract. Either we get the money we want or you stay.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have any thoughts on who will be the next Tottenham manager, or just wait and see?
Well, the names that I've heard that are in the pot are Zidane, Thomas Frank, Nagelsmann, Pochettino, as you say, and then Luis Enrique.
And now Brendan Rodgers has just been
Yeah, I'm sure if you're a Tottenham fan, you don't want Brendan Rodgers to come, but I think Thomas Frank, as unlikely as it might seem, him leaving Brentford, I think that would be a really good move for Tottenham.
I think they're going to get Pochettino back.
I think it depends a lot on what Tottenham want. I think if you're Tottenham and you want a manager,
Daniel Levy wants top 4.
Yeah,
That's all he cares about is top 4.
I think if you're going to bring in Thomas Frank, you're going to bring in someone who's going to kind of overhaul the squad again, get them playing. Not obviously not the way that they play at Brentford, but he adapts the way that he plays. He's building something there, and you can see it's more of a long-term project. But I don't think that the Tottenham board and the Tottenham fans want a long-term project. They got Conte because they thought he can get us a trophy. And then when it kind of came to that point where it's like, okay, he's not getting you a trophy, they were like, okay, we want someone else now. And it's like, I don't think there's a manager out there in the world that can come into Tottenham and get them a trophy as fast as what they want a trophy.
No.
So
no.
I think Frank would be a good appointment.
I don't think Frank leaves Brentford.
I don't think he does. Yeah.
I think he's one of these managers that thinks, now I like where I'm at, I like what I've got, I'm gonna see this out.
Yeah. So, all right then. So we can move down now to the Championship fixtures, and we'll start off at St Andrews.
Yeah.
For you guys, Ben, I think that not only are you the only person who didn't predict a Birmingham City win, you're also the only person who didn't get the score correct on the day either. Us three went for 1-0 wins, and of course Birmingham got a 1-0 win.
Obviously, I hope Blues win every single game, right? I just thought, as Matty highlighted last time as well, we hadn't beaten them in 5. We've already lost 3 times in this season.
That's how I knew we were going to beat them.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess I should have read the signs right, but they're pushing. They're a good team. I think. Because I watched the game as well. I actually thought, to be honest with you, Blues played really, really well. So I think Alfie Chang and
George Hall was immense.
Yeah, George Hall. Just that day for me just ran the show, and I think from an attacking perspective, I don't think we looked amazing, but we looked like we was troubling them.
Yeah,
which was something that we haven't really seen over the past sort of X amount of weeks. And then defensively, I thought, they had players, they had Gallagher on there, they brought Ben Brereton Diaz on, and I just don't think they really struggled. Yeah,
they did.
They struggled to break us down. They struggled to make click. I think there was one from Bradley Dack where he kind of got through in the last 5 minutes or so. But
yeah, the roll across the line.
Yeah, other than that, I thought we were quite comfortable, and we didn't really look like we was going to lose that game.
Do you want to apologise to Mark Roberts?
No, absolutely not.
Neither do I, because all he did was boot the ball out of play and not pass it to our players.
Who gives him permission to play long balls?
That's all he can do. He can throw it long with his hands. He can kick it long with his foot. That's it.
But he never reaches one of our players. Or?
It doesn't. It's always out of play.
He just boots out of play, yeah.
So, hopefully it's his last season.
The Peter Kay advert.
Yeah, he just hoofs it.
Chuck Mark Roberts in there instead.
I mean, if in doubt, kick it out.
Yeah, but that's fine.
I want him to be our first guest order.
If in doubt, kick it out. That's absolutely fine. But he does that when he's got 10 yards of space as well. And there's a pass to his left or right, and he for some reason he thinks, oh look, there's a player that's by their corner flag. I'll lump it up there for no reason.
I don't know how our players you don't see him. We'll just go in all the time, just at him, because he makes it. He just constantly trickles back to him, and he just lumps it into a corner, and you're just like, what have you seen? What can you see on there that no one else can see?
You want to see him when they come out to warm up before the game. You got Roberts playing Kings with the opposition's goalie.
He's just got a bag of balls to himself. He just hoofs out the ground. They go, yeah, Mark, here's your bag of balls, and he stands in the corner just hoofing them out the ground.
Like a naughty kid, go over there and play on your own. Come on.
Joe, I wouldn't mind, right, if literally all he'd done was hoof the ball out of play and just pass it left to right. If he'd done that all game, I would actually turn around now and say, do you know what, he was really good actually against Blackburn. But it's the most frustrating player I've ever met. There's so many times he could play a ball to Bielik or play it out to the right hand side to Maxime Collin. He just chooses not to. And he's the most frustrating player.
Those dinks as well, just try and chip it over to Chong. And I'm just thinking, just keep it simple. You're a centre back for a reason, mate, and you're old.
Yeah. I mean, so Harley Dean, but at least Harley Dean tries them passes. And I don't know. Sometimes you want him to get rid of it, but then sometimes just be calm.
Yeah, if he was in danger, I could see I can get it, boot it out, like do what you need to do. But we're in possession, we're building up play, we roll it back to Mark Roberts, Blackburn have got the ball.
Yeah. So no, good win. Really good win.
Big win. Very nice win.
Big Jukey winning everything. George Hall looking good.
So what do you think this means now for Birmingham? Like, is it just pressure's off kind of thing?
It means you'll be absolutely dog poo in the next game.
So, I mean, Blues, okay, like there's always that kind of looking over your shoulder, obviously, with the relegation zone not being a million miles away. But results like that just kind of take any kind of pressure off them to just...
It's a big boost. It's a boost.
No, you want it to be a big boost, but we do it every time. We'll go to Blackburn and we beat them. Then you go, let's build on something, let's do well, let's get some results under our belt. Yeah, let's go out and have a try. And then the next game, we're absolutely pony and we sit there thinking, this isn't the same team, what has gone on here?
We've got your favourite team as well next.
Happens everyone. My favourite team.
Your favourite championship team next year.
Yeah, you love them, Paul.
Reading.
Oh.
How did you not get that?
Big Paul Ince.
Well, yeah, so... Well... And then what?
To answer your question, sorry, I think we're safe now. I think there's worse teams below us to buy us a few losses over the next sort of 7-8 games, whatever it is. So, yeah, good win.
And for Blackburn, obviously they're a team that are hoping for promotion. Do you think losing that game basically? Does it ruin their chances of getting promoted, or do they still have? Because obviously they've slipped down to 6th now.
Still 4 points clear of the game, man. But I think
anyone beats anyone in the championship, so they can go and they could go and beat the next 4 teams that they play and end up pushing themselves and solidifying a space in the playoffs.
Yeah. So do you think that they are gonna make up a playoff spot?
I think they are better than Norwich, Coventry, West Brom. So. Yeah.
You got Luton up there right now as well.
Yeah.
Luton bad somebody the weekend as well, didn't they?
Luton, tell you what.
Big derby.
I don't know what's happened to them the last couple of years, but it's annoying.
They did last season as well, didn't they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then we went and put 8 past them last season over 2 games, and we
battered them last season, yeah. But we batter them quite a lot, and then they end up doing well.
The best game, and the bloke went on to get the tennis ball, and then Gaffer absolutely lost it because we went down.
Nathan Jones, yeah.
Okay, so moving on to Wigan QPR. Not the most exciting game in the world. Wigan winning 1-0. Obviously, Wigan got problems on and off the pitch. Does this kind of highlight that perhaps QPR have that they have more problems than perhaps what people are realising? Obviously, I highlighted last week the fact that they're losing games quite big, like losing against Blackpool 6-1, Blackburn 3-1, Middlesbrough 3-1, obviously, and then Hull 3-0. Middlesbrough and Blackburn, you can kind of write them off, but even against the teams down the bottom, that means that they've now lost 6-1 to Blackpool, who are second from bottom, and they've just lost to Wigan, who are currently bottom. Like, obviously, QPR have got some big problems, and when you think they're only 3 points clear of Huddersfield, who beat Middlesbrough, they could find themselves being in trouble now.
I think they are in trouble. I mean,
can we just hold on a second? Matty, are you in a school?
No, this is my conservatory, my bar. But all these are my kids' paintings. Look, I love them. You know what I mean?
I thought he was in a school.
No, detention, mate.
But I think in some way they're a bit similar to Blues. I think we have to, as fans, realise that we're not as big as the club as what everyone thinks. And I think that's the same with QPR. And I think they have to be realistic about where they are. They was in probably a false position, although Michael Beale's a decent manager at the start of the season. But I think there's a realistic chance that they could go into the bottom 3. I mean, they are in a relegation battle now, but I think there's a strong chance that they could, because their form's terrible and they're conceding goals like every game at the moment.
Have they still not won a game this year yet?
Yeah, they beat Watford, didn't they, with Ainsworth's first home game, didn't they? But they haven't won many, have they?
I think it's just that one there because I thought they were still looking for it. Forgot about that Watford win.
Yeah.
I mean, to lose against Blues is bad enough, isn't it?
So, Matty, do you think that QPR could go down this season?
The way they're playing lately, yeah, I think they get dragged into it, 100%. They need to pick up some points like within the next 2 or 3 games, so they've got a 5-game buffer.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know who they've got coming up. So but like Paul said, they could have Hull and they could still lose. Then they could play Norwich and beat them.
So well, they've got Preston next, but then they've got the promotion chasers. They've got Baggies, they've got Coventry, and they've got Norwich, and then they've got Burnley straight after that.
I'll be honest. Out of those 4 games, they'll probably pick up a point.
Who do they get a point against in there? In that
probably
list?
be Burnley.
Well, you'd think by that point in time, Burnley probably have the season wrapped up. They've got promotion secured.
They only need to win one more game, don't they? If they win their next game and Luton don't win.
Yeah, so maybe they played Burnley at a good time where they're taking their foot off the gas and just relaxing towards the end of the season.
Could be somebody that Leicester look at, to be fair.
If you're... Okay, that's an interesting question, an interesting point. If you're Company, do you go to Leicester? Because obviously you're going to be in the Premier League next season with Burnley versus you might not be in the Premier League next season with Leicester.
I think stay at Burnley. You're building something. You brought your players in. You've got them playing well. I don't think there's any incentive for him to go to Leicester.
Yeah,
I'd stay at Burnley as well, to be fair.
I agree. I wouldn't take that Leicester job.
Stranger Things.
That's a great team. So.
I don't know who would go to Leicester at the moment.
Michael Carrick.
I don't think he leaves Middlesbrough though.
I don't think he's proven enough yet. He's had a great run with Middlesbrough so far, but I think he needs to.
We bigged him up and then they got battered.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do it again.
But yeah, before we move on to that game, let's just talk quickly about Wigan. Obviously, Wigan beating QPR, problems off the pitch as well as on the pitch. Bottom of the league, 5 points behind Cardiff, who are in 21st. Is it just, could we see a bit of a resurgence from Wigan now? Or is it just a case of they're pretty much dead and buried?
There's a points deduction on the horizon as well, don't they? So
yeah.
I think Wigan are dead.
Yeah.
I think their fight's settled, mate, yeah. I think that's a done one.
Yeah.
Just waiting for the final call, aren't they?
Wigan, generally, I mean, they're unbeaten in 3, but they just don't even, apart from QPR, well, they didn't even look like beating QPR, to be honest with you, but they just don't look like they're good enough for the league in general. And if they get the points deduction, that just puts the nails in anyway.
Yeah, so with the point deduction, obviously, I think they're down anyway. But then next, they've got Sheffield United away. They follow that with Swansea at home, then Blackpool away, Stoke away, Millwall at home, Reading away, and Rotherham at home. So there's some games in there that obviously...
They need to be out of it or within 1 or 2 points by that Blackpool game. Because Blackpool's a game's a 6-pointer.
So they need to, in your opinion, to beat Sheffield and beat Wigan and then go into the Blackpool game.
I think they need to get something out of that. I think Swansea, they need to look for a win. I don't think they're going to beat Sheffield United.
Yeah.
But they need to look for a win.
Wigan beat the South Swiss.
Yeah.
Sheffield United and Swansea.
So, in my opinion, I don't think they're going to expect to get anything from Sheffield. I think they'll look to get a win against Swansea, and then that Blackpool game's a 6-pointer.
Yeah. I think if you're
Rotherham last game of the season as well. So if they're in a position where they could get out, they've got Rotherham last game of the season. It could be a.
I think if you're Blackpool, you look at that game. I mean, Blackpool themselves, they've not had the best of runs lately, obviously. The only win they've picked up for quite a while now. So they beat Stoke on the 18th of February 1-0. Since then, it's been a loss against Blackburn, loss against Reading, draw against Burnley, loss against Bristol City. Then there's the 6-1 win against QPR, and then a 4-1 loss against Blackpool, and they also lost against Preston yesterday. So if you're Blackpool, you're looking at that Wigan game and you're thinking, this is our chance as well to try and get up the table. So it would be a good game.
I think Mick McCarthy's realistic to know as well that they're in a dogfight.
Yeah.
Is under no illusions that they might not get out of this.
Completely agree. So we'll move on now to the final fixture, the one that we all managed to get wrong. Huddersfield against Middlesbrough. I think we all got Middlesbrough wins. Some of us put more convincing scores than others. There was a 3-0.
4-0.
Yeah, 4-0. I went 3-1 myself.
I think I went 3-1.
Yeah. But obviously Huddersfield managed to pull the wool over everyone's eyes and get a win in that game. Does that derail Middlesbrough now? Because obviously they've come on the back of a lot of really good performances, some good solid wins, and then
I don't think it derails them. I don't think they lose confidence. I don't think Carrick's got a massive job to try and pick them back up. But they do have Burnley next, and obviously if Burnley win, they effectively promoted. So it's a big game for them.
It's the Championship, though, isn't it? So they beat Burnley, and then you think, oh, well, what happened there? I've never known a league like the Championship. The teams take points off each other all up and down it.
Yeah. So I think last time when we spoke, we were saying that we quite fancy Middlesbrough to get the second spot. Do we still see that happening, or does that loss kind of put a bit of a dampener on that as well?
No, I think they still get it. I don't think one loss means that you're completely out of the running.
The only thing I'd say is obviously there's the 6 points behind now, and Sheffield have still got a game in hand.
Yeah.
So if they win that, 9 points with only 7 games to go is
a lot catching up.
quite a gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to have to rely on Sheffield messing up as well.
And
We're
then
going to beat Sheffield next week.
But as you know, as you just said as well, they do have Burnley next game. So if they lose that and Sheffield win, then you're looking at 9 points behind, and Sheffield having that game in hand. If they win that game in hand, to be 12 points behind, that's surely a bridge too far, needing Sheffield to lose basically 4 games for you to be able to catch up to them.
True, but then Sheffield have got Burnley after Wigan. So if a shock result happens against Wigan and then Burnley go and beat them, then you're back to 1 game then.
Yeah. Okay. So that's covered all of the fixtures that we went over yesterday. I suppose the only real big topic that has come out is the Brendan Rodgers sacking. Do we realistically think that he could go to Tottenham?
I wouldn't want him there if I was a Tottenham fan.
Be a very silly appointment, in my opinion.
Especially when you've got other more experienced, better managers available to Spurs.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd go for Rodgers.
Okay. So one of the topics that we spoke about last week was obviously the Manager Hall of Fame and what managers go in there versus what managers don't go in there, what would be the criteria. And obviously they also have a Players Hall of Fame as well. And in a WhatsApp chat that we have, someone brought up the idea of having a partnerships version. So talking about the best defensive partnerships, the best strike partnerships. So I kind of want to open a bit of a debate about A, whether you think that's a good idea, and B, if so, what partnerships would you introduce there first?
Bit like Stern John and a Mick R full sale kind of combo.
A Matthew Upson and a Kenny Cunningham.
That's the one, yeah.
Now we're talking the big leagues.
Roger Johnson, Scott Dan, right?
Well, it'll be a Premier League.
And Robbie Savage.
So it'd be a Premier League Hall of Fame, obviously.
These are all Premier League Hall of Famers.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm just defining it for the audience.
My problem with it all is it's all a bit WWE.
In terms of the Hall of Fame in general?
No, the partnership thing. I don't really think you need a Hall of Fame, but I get why people like it, why people want to be recognised and all that sort of stuff. But I think once you start putting partnerships in there, like, it comes all a bit WWE, a bit tag teamy. Like, where'd you stop? So you start putting partnerships in there. What do you do then? Like, induct like famous fans in and things like that. Like Mike Tyson's in the WWE version. He's not a wrestler, but he's in it. Snoop Dogg's in the WWE version. Like, where do you stop when you start putting? I think players go in on the merit. Yeah, players go in on the merit that they deserve to go in on. I think partnerships. What are you going to do? Have Shearer in there and then throw Sutton in just because they played well together for a season?
I don't know if you. I think obviously with partnerships, you'd have to look a bit more long term than one season. I think you're talking partnerships like Ferdinand and Vidic, Keane and Scholes.
The Suarez and Sturridge go in.
Well, that would be the debate. I think personally, I would say no to Suarez and Sturridge. I think they had one season where they both looked really good. But I think when you look at the reason why they both looked really good was because Suarez not only scored a ton of goals that season, he also assisted a ton of goals that season as well. I think when you look at partnerships, you're thinking more about two players that backed each other up, like Son and Kane. They both assist, they both score. They're on that sort of level with each other where they just have an understanding. It's not one player propping up the other, if that makes sense. And I think if you were looking at partnerships, it would be something similar as well. So obviously defensive partnerships, we always look at who's the best centre-back in the Premier League. And, we'll talk about the likes of Vidic, Terry, so on and so forth. But which of those had a better partnership? Would you say that Vidic and Ferdinand were a better partnership than Terry and whoever you would put alongside him, whether it's Cahill or Carvalho, yeah.
So, would you put Vardy and Mahrez in there?
Well,
they won the title.
Well, so my question to you would be, do you think it's a good idea, first and foremost?
I don't, because I think there's too many, similar to what Paul said, I think there's too many variables of it, because you could have like left mid and left winger, like as partnerships. You could have two centre mids, you could have a three-way.
Yeah, do you have Beckham and Neville?
Yeah, I think there's that many potentials there. I think it's just.
I think the Hall of Fame's good, but I think just keeping it to a single player. If you're good enough to make the Hall of Fame, then you're good enough.
So my problem...
Also, Vidic don't get in it for me.
It's a strong shout, that one.
Controversial.
Let's see your comments on that one.
So my problem with the Hall of Fame is once you start laying out certain things. So, for example, just taking it back to the Manager Hall of Fame, once you've put in Wenger and Ferguson, no one else really touches them. So you're putting in people then to just fill a list, if that makes sense. And I think with the Player Hall of Fame as well, what do you define? For example, would you put Suarez in the Premier League Hall of Fame?
I don't think.
I wouldn't.
See, you say you wouldn't, yeah, but I think Suarez in that when Suarez was in the Premier League, there hasn't been many better strikers in that. If you compared them in that Suarez in that season to another peak season of somebody else, Suarez was unplayable. Like he's one of the best that's ever been in the Premier League. Now Thierry Henry did it for longer, Drogba did it for longer, Aguero did it for longer, but not many of them did it better than Suarez in that time.
Yeah, that's what I'm a bit hesitant about, because he would technically deserve to be in there based on what we assume a player should be in there for.
Yeah,
and it's the same with Cristiano Ronaldo. Obviously, when he was there at Man U for however many seasons it was, like that early part of him deserves to be in there.
But has Ronaldo done enough in the Premier League to warrant a Hall of Fame place?
I think Ronaldo gets a Hall of Fame place, but I think he gets a Hall of Fame place.
You can't bring in the fact that he was the best player in the world.
No, I'm not saying from my point of view.
Take it as when he was in the Premier League.
I'm not saying
he weren't the best player in the world then.
Yeah, I'm not saying from my point of view. I'm saying from the fact that if they open it up to votes, people vote.
Yeah, he gets in it because it's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
But does he really deserve to be in
it? But he, at that time, he wasn't the best player in the world, but he was pretty dangerous. He wouldn't be able to replicate that last time he came in.
So it's probably the same as your Suarez comment.
Wilfried Zaha's been dangerous at times. Does he deserve to go in there?
Do you put Kevin Davies from Bolton in there?
Absolutely.
Aaron Lennon was dangerous at his best. Does he go in there?
Yeah, but Ronaldo done it constantly though. Every game he'd be a threat.
No, he didn't do it every game though, did he? There was When he
He might not
first
have
burst
scored
into that
every
Man U side. No, but when he first got into that Man U side, I remember looking at Ronaldo and thinking, it ain't that special. It isn't that special. It wasn't until he went away that one summer and came back an absolute unit of a geezer and started like actually putting muscle on and looking like a beast that you went, oh, actually, I see what's going on here. But when he first got to Man United, he was just step overs and diving.
Even Blues were linked with Ronaldo before he went to Man U.
I think Blues were linked to it. We was linked to Bale and everything, weren't we? But
I'm Roberto Carlos.
yeah, but
Years ago.
the point still stands there, and that's why.
Does Gareth
I
Bale
agree
get in
with
there?
Paul.
Again, did he do enough in the Premier League?
I
to
don't
get
think
into
Bale
the
did
Hall
do
of
enough
Fame?
in the Premier League.
Started
But
off very quiet, and then the one season he had a great season. Fucked off. Went to Real
Yeah.
Madrid.
Oh,
Pulled a
There's
Paul.
always one. Answer.
I know, he done so well. Got
Pulled a
through
Paul.
an hour.
was it about this time in the last podcast? Well, I think that we
Yeah, it
went
was,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was.
Paul just sent me a message. Probably said your turn.
Yeah. Any chance?
Yeah.
So,
But I think
then-
it is a good question, though, isn't it? Because
but then it
you have to
opens up the
understand-
criteria.
Yeah.
Would you say
Because
Fernando Torres deserves it?
I'd say for the longevity that he had with Liverpool, for what he done with Liverpool, possibly. I'd say there's a better argument for Torres getting in there than there would be for Suarez getting in there based on criteria because he'd done it over
No, who
multiple
does get in
seasons.
there? Ashley Cole.
Ashley
Oh, yeah.
Cole gets in there, in my opinion. I think that's
Over anyone,
There you
like,
go, man.
he'd be one of the first ones in for me.
yeah.
Over anybody else, Ashley Cole in there. No one has ever been as consistent as Ashley Cole.
In 5 years' time, will you say he deserves to be in there over Robertson?
Well, you have to see what Robertson does in the next 5 years, don't you?
I'd rather have a prime Ashley Cole than Robertson now.
Oh, yeah, I'd have a prime Ashley Cole over any left back that's ever lived.
I'd play a prime Ashley Cole right back if I had to.
I'd play Ashley Cole in the Liverpool team at right back now.
I think you'd play
Horrible.
anyone at right back to get rid of Trent at the
Maybe
moment.
would, wouldn't
Oh, he's an absolute fraud.
So what would you make the criteria to be though? Because obviously some players would argue they deserve to be in it because of trophies won.
Right, like it's one of them ones, isn't it? It's another one. Matt Letizia goes in it. Matt Letizia, what he's done in the Premier League, the goals he's scored and all that sort of stuff, deserves to be in there. He hasn't won anything, but he had a great career as a Premier League player. And then you've got other ones like, for me, Les Ferdinand's another one. He'd go in it. Like, just because you haven't won the league doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be in there. But because otherwise Gerrard don't get in. If you've got to have won the Premier League, Gerrard don't get in. Gerrard's the best centre midfielder that the Premier League's probably ever seen.
Yeah, agreed. Before anyone starts saying Lampard or Scholes, I completely agree. Gerrard is the best centre midfielder.
We know Scholes is always going to be a debate, especially with particular someone in our circle.
Yeah.
Lampard's goals from midfield, though, is an absolute joke. How many he scored himself.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but he was given the freedom to. That's why. When you've got Makelele doing your defensive work behind you, you're free. If you'd have put Makelele in behind Gerrard has scored goals that Lampard scored.
That's not Lampard's fault, though, is it?
No, I'm not saying it is. I'm just
No,
saying
no.
if you've got the tools around you, Gerrard was dragging an average Liverpool side to Champions League finals.
Yeah, well, except for when Xavi Alonso turned up. Well, he was a baller.
Yeah, but it does go on popularity because you can almost guarantee that players like N'Golo Kante will get in there, will get voted because of how nice he is. And
But does
He's such a
N'Golo?
nice guy.
I think with N'Golo Kante, obviously he had one season where he won the league with Leicester, which is obviously completely. No one expected Leicester to win the league. I think you said, Paul, you was more likely to find Alvis alive than Leicester to win the league that season. So if you're someone like N'Golo Kante, you might have a shout to say, well,
it's just, but I'm not denying that he's good because he is, but he's just a stubborn CDM. And there's loads of them that have been in past
Poor
and
man's
present
Makelele.
in the Premier League. But he's a good player. But that's what I'm saying. It will go on kind of, if he was in a list now, you can almost guarantee that everyone like, yeah, it's N'Golo Kante. He's the best
But
midfielder.
if you were looking at that, anyone who's ever played for Leeds will get voted in because Leeds fans do things like that in abundance. And Liverpool are the same. Any Liverpool player that would be in it will get voted in because Liverpool fans vote for that sort of stuff.
Mm.
It's like if you watch Match of the Day and there's ever a Liverpool goal, look for goal of the month. The Liverpool goal always wins it because all the Liverpool fans come out and vote for it.
It's because we
That's
score
his
great
thing.
goals.
Chris is there on his phone 15 times.
Yeah.
Well,
Could be a tap-in.
we've got to win
You've
something this
You've got
season.
little Scouse lads with their mums going mental because the phone bills are £8,000 for the month because they needed Mo Salah to be the top goal, win the Golden Boot and stuff.
Yeah, I think though, like when you think about the players that are going to get voted in, I think like Ben, you mentioned N'Golo Kante, and then the CDM position. I think the CDM position gets massively overlooked because the players, if they do a good job, you don't really notice them.
Yeah.
Like with a CDM, you only notice them when they've done something wrong.
True. Yeah.
So when you think about CDMs, it'd be much harder for a defensive midfielder to make it into the Hall of Fame than it would, for example, a striker to make it in the Hall of Fame, because obviously you can look at goal records and everything else. So maybe there has to be different criteria for different positions.
But it's the same with the Ballon d'Or and things like that. The striker always wins the Ballon d'Or because it's the most exciting place to be.
Yeah,
He scores all the goals. Even if there's players better than him, then the striker ends up normally winning it.
yeah.
It's not often you end up with like Modric or someone that wins it.
Yeah.
I think with like strikers, obviously you look at the amount of goals that they have. With midfielders, in terms of like attacking midfielders, wingers, you look at the amount of assists and goals that they combine together to create, and then you look at defenders, goalkeepers, you look at the amount of clean sheets that they've kept throughout the season. When you're a defensive midfielder, obviously you combine in all of it. Like you might not get assists, but you tend to be the one who's broke up the play and started an attacking move. So they often get overlooked. So someone like, I wouldn't be against someone like N'Golo Kante getting in there if it meant that we did start looking at these kind of positions and putting a bit more respect on
But
the
how
really
long
good
has
players.
N'Golo Kante been in the Premier League for?
So his first season with Leicester was the season they won the Premier League.
What was that?
2016, wasn't it? 2015, 2016.
Yeah. So you're talking 8 years.
Yeah. And other than winning the Premier League with Leicester and winning it with Chelsea afterwards, like I know he's a great player, he's a real good, but Hall of Famer, I don't see.
He's won the Champions League as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, we can only go on what the Premier League, and it's what he's done in the Premier League.
Yeah, true that.
So he just doesn't stand out to me as someone that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I mean, Crouch has got to be in there.
I think then it does kind of just go into being a popularity contest, doesn't it?
It does.
It is. That's all a Hall of Fame is. It is a popularity contest.
Because if you're going to put Crouch in there, then all of a sudden you've got Jermaine Defoe in there. There's a lot of players that are just popular with the clubs that they've played for. People like Kevin Campbell, for example. Would you put him in the Hall of Fame? But you might say no, but then Everton fans would say yes to Kevin Campbell. Like, it just becomes...
I'm putting big Duncan Ferguson in there just because I don't want to tell him he's not allowed in.
He's doing well. Who's the manager of now? Is it
Forest Green, isn't he?
Forest Green, yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of the Hall of Fame. I don't think football's the right sport for it.
No.
Football's too opinionated. It's too much of an opinion. Like, I can think someone's a great player. You three could go, nah, he's absolutely pony.
Yeah.
Like, there's no... Unless you're going to do it based on what people have won, then I don't think you can really... It's all about opinion. It's a popularity contest. So unless anyone who's ever won a Premier League title goes in the Hall of Fame, and then you're leaving out players like Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, unless they define specifically, I mean, obviously it's going around now, right? There's 15 players up for it, but unless people specifically understand why they've been voted.
Who are the 15 players? Because you've got to vote for 3 of them, ain't you?
Yeah.
Jermaine Defoe's in there, Andy Cole, John Terry.
So what we can do is talk about the players that we would put in.
Why don't we, on the next one, do our own Hall of Fame that we think should be the Hall of Fame?
Okay. So to go over the list of...
I've got some terrible news, guys. Falcon from Gladiators has died.
Well, we can dedicate a podcast in the future to
It's a Falcon.
Falcon.
I know this is a football podcast, but how good was Gladiators?
Gladiators was good.
It was amazing, Gladiators was.
Incredible, yeah.
Back in the day, Gladiators was good. Okay, so the potential 15, you've got Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, Michael Carrick, Petr Cech, Andy Cole, Ashley Cole, Jermaine Defoe, Les Ferdinand, Rio Ferdinand, Robbie Fowler, Gary Neville, Michael Owen, John Terry, Yaya Toure, and Nemanja Vidic.
You've got to vote for 3, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So out of those 15, we'll go around. Paul, what 3 do you put in?
I don't know what the 15 are.
So you've got Tony Adams, Sol Campbell.
Yeah, you're going to say it all over again. I'm still not going to remember the 15.
We'll just bring it up on your screen. All right, Ben, we'll start with you.
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm guessing you've got it up.
I do, yeah. I personally then would go for, out of them 3, John Terry.
Yep.
I think is a must. I think Petr Cech, because I just think he's an immense goalkeeper for both Chelsea and Arsenal. And then the other one's a bit blurry, but I think if I had to pick, I would probably go for Ashley Cole. Although I'm a bit torn between him, Tony Adams, and Michael Owen. But I probably would pick Ashley Cole out of them.
All right. Matty, have you got the list up?
I have, mate. I have.
Right, let's hear your 3.
Ashley Cole, definitely going in there. My second one would be John Terry. And my third one would be Michael Owen.
And Paul, have you got the list up now?
Yeah, I'm looking in there. Ashley Cole, 100%. Ashley Cole goes in all day long. I think Gary Neville. Goes in.
And Dessert, yeah. The show.
He's going to crop this and put it on Twitter and tag him.
And then I think I'm going Andrew Cole.
Oh.
Andy Cole, Gary Neville, Ashley Cole.
Andy Cole was a baller.
He was.
Especially up top with Dwight York for Man U. Jesus Christ, them pair. Yeah, there's one for your Hall of Fame pairs. Andy Cole and Dwight York.
Yeah, well, I think with the pairs, that it was pairs like that were kind of in my thinking. Obviously, Andy Cole's got a mention for the Hall of Fame, but Dwight York hasn't. I assume Dwight York will in the future. But
why though?
Yeah, I was going to say why.
Well, they were part of a successful partnership. Like, look at everything that they won.
We're talking about individuals now, though, right?
Well, yeah. So this is why the partnership one was my thinking behind it. You look at individuals and you say, okay, Andy Cole was the better player, but then the fact that Dwight York doesn't get a mention, does he deserve something because he was one part of one of the most successful partnerships in Man United history?
I actually think as the all-round footballer, Dwight York was a better player, but Andy Cole knew where the net was.
Dwight York was a baller. He was even good at the scum down the road. He was brilliant for them. And he just got better when he went to Man U and he partnered up with Cole.
Yeah. So my 3, I'm going to try and leave bias out of it.
You know, 4-way is going to pick Robbie Fowler.
Yeah. Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen.
Not Owen. Owen's a traitor.
Go for Jermaine Defoe just to be neutral.
No, if I was going to be completely honest, I personally think Tony Adams deserves to go in there.
I think it's a good show.
So I didn't think Tony Adams had played much in the Premier League. I thought he was a little bit before the Premier League.
Well, there you go. He's like a statesman. He ushered in the Premier League. No, I think if I was going to be honest, I'd agree with what Paul said. Ashley Cole, Gary Neville, Andy Cole would be my first 3. I do think players like Robbie Fowler, they do deserve to go in there for everything that he done for Liverpool. But those are the kind of players that would get overlooked as well, I think. Do we assume
like when he sniffed the line?
Yeah, I think that was his best moment. And then I think when he came back to Liverpool at the ripe old age that he was, and
that's when he wrecked it for me. That's why he's that.
he scored an overhead kick that I think got ruled out as being offside or something. Do we assume though that obviously we're voting for 3 of this 15? Do we just assume that all of the 15 are going to get in there anyway? It's what's the point in voting? All of them you'd probably argue all
Nah,
of them will get in
they're
there.
going to pick the three. They're going to pick them three, and then the other 12 just get discarded and never allowed in.
Like a quick sell on FIFA.
Yeah.
I don't understand the voting side of it, because you assume that all of those 15 deserve a place in there.
Well, yeah.
I think the voting side of it is just to get the people on board, and it just
get a bit of interaction. Just touch on something you said there, then, Chris.
Yep.
And it's a question that kind of I think about quite a lot, and you brought up the other day. So you mentioned about Fowler, the overhead kick, which was ruled out offside.
Yeah.
Why is overhead kicks not classed as a high boot?
See, this is my question, because I personally don't see the difference between the two. Like, there was an incident today with the Man United game. I think Bruno Fernandes had a high foot and gave away a free kick against Isaac. And I think his foot was at the height of Isaac's chest, which is deemed as a foul, obviously. But then if you're doing an overhead kick, your foot's at the height of the head. So why is that
every single time?
Yeah, so why is that not a foul?
It's only a foul if you can do an overhead kick all you like. You can put your foot up as high as you like on a football pitch, as long as it doesn't endanger anyone else on the football pitch. So if there's nobody around you, so do you know like when Rooney hit his?
Yeah.
If somebody was going to head the ball at the same time Rooney did his, technically that's a foul and should be given as a foul. Because he jumped up in the space with nobody around him, he's not endangering anyone, and it's not a foul.
But at what point then do you say that a player's gone for it? So if a cross comes into the box and a defender's jumped and it's gone over him, and then the overhead kick's taken in, is that not classed as being?
If there's no head or no danger to anyone while the overhead kick's happening, then it's not a foul. It's the endangerment of other players is what makes it a foul.
So
that's summed up quite well.
Okay.
I wish I knew that before I went up for my header.
It's just crazy because you'll see like it 100 times. People will put the foot to the waist, and then someone's gone for a headed low and they've given it, and then you'll see like an overhead kick where the foot's above someone's head and the defender's challenged for it. Admittedly, not directly on with that.
That's where you start to get into the whole referees not being consistent. Yeah. There's no consistency to football. If a player ducks his head down to head a ball, there should be no head height rule there, because if you're ducking down, you're coming down to the foot. You've not jumped up and then somebody's booted your head off.
I suppose that the problem with a player ducking down obviously comes with the height of the player. If you're Peter Crouch and you're ducking down, the player's foot is still 6 foot high. If you're, I don't know, say
Jermaine
Defoe, who obviously is not the tallest player, if he's ducking down, then your foot doesn't have to be that high off the ground in order to catch him in the head. So the consistency argument would have to be levied across different height ranges for different players.
I think when you play Power League and things like that, and they have a head height rule, isn't it normally the head height is to the smallest player on the pitch? So
you would apply that logic across the whole.
Well, yeah, you either go for whoever's the tallest, whoever's the highest on the pitch at the time, or whoever's the shortest. You go through if your foot is up above them. But again, it can only be if there's another player around you. You can do as many overhead kicks as you like in the centre of the park and no one about.
Yeah,
it's all about the endangerment of the players.
But you'll see it like most games, like someone will go for a diving header while someone's tried to clear it, and then the person that's gone for a diving header will get the free kick, regardless.
Yeah, it's like when John Terry got his head volleyed off, didn't he?
Yeah, and it's just like yes, obviously you don't want to see someone get kicked in the head, but it's like, well, is it really a foul in the sense of they've just gone for the ball and you just got there first, or you haven't got there first and they've cleared it, but you've got to put your head in there? It's just, but VAR is a different. And refereeing decisions is a different conversation altogether. That probably feels like 4 podcasts that will. But.
Yeah,
I think VAR would. But okay, so Paul's answered that, so we can move on to one final topic before we end it. We've got 5 minutes to go. Ben, you brought up a question the other day about the offside rule, so I'll let you repeat that question.
Well, it was something that Marco van Basten said, right? So we know that VAR has been brought in to be 100% accurate when it comes to offsides. And whether we agree that that is the case right now or not, it is up for debate. But Marco Van Basten once mentioned, what is the point of an offside rule? So why did we introduce offsides in the first place?
To stop players standing in front of the goalkeeper for the whole game.
But if your defender's going to allow that to happen...
Well, yeah, I think from my point of view, and then I'll let Paul and Matty answer the question. If you're an attacking team, for example, or if you're a team, for example, and you just say to your striker, stand as close to stand in their box for the whole game, it then means that the other team have to push their defence back.
It doesn't mean that you can't do that, though.
Yeah, but it just makes the game less intriguing to watch.
You're just going to with long ball football. There's going to be no game in the middle of the park. You're just going to have your defenders lump a ball forward to a bloke stood on his own in the box, who's then going to try and flick it on into the net past the goalkeeper. And then we're all going to have Sam Allardyce in charge of our teams, and Kevin Nolan's going to come out of retirement, and Kevin Davis is going to come out of retirement, and we're just going to lump the ball forward all the time.
Do you want to know the thing? Mark Roberts will be worth a fortune as well.
And it
Oh, yeah.
Costs millions. We'd sell him for 100 mil.
You'd have Rory Delap come back out of retirement just to throw balls in for teams. There'd be no reason to have a midfield anymore. You'd have
I think it would ruin the game
10 defenders and 1 striker.
Yeah, but would you, though?
Or you'd have 5 defenders and 5 strikers and no one in the middle of the park.
It would just do long ball.
Yeah, but if they said to us now, right, so this next round of fixtures on Friday, there's no offside, I don't think it would turn into that level of chaos where people just... I think you'll play the game more, but defenders have just got to be more switched on.
Until somebody scored a goal and then it was getting towards the end of the game and then all of a sudden you've got...
Yeah, but they'd do that anyway.
It's as soon as you get rid of offside, you're just going to get one player who stays in the box constantly, doesn't leave the box.
I think you keep offside, but you get rid of VAR for giving offside decisions.
I think VAR's representing everything.
Leave the linesman.
I don't necessarily have a problem with VAR. The problem that I have at the moment is when a player's obviously offside and the linesman doesn't raise his flag and he lets the play.
Yes,
But so I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I understand the reason, because the player's then going to go and let's say the player scores. They review it on VAR. It turns out he was actually onside. If the linesman would have flagged it, he wouldn't have had that opportunity. But if a player's offside, and let's say, for example, the goalkeeper comes rushing out and breaks the player's leg, that could have all been avoided if the linesman had just put his flag up. So,
True.
But something like that could happen in the middle of the park over nothing. Like you can't not do things in football on the off chance a player gets hurt, because a player can get hurt doing anything on a football pitch at any time.
I think if you're talking about a player running through on goal, a defender's going to make a last-ditch tackle. That's got to be one of those situations where it increases the likelihood of a player getting injured, making a last-ditch tackle.
Well, of all the last-ditch tackles have you seen, how many players have broke their leg from one?
Hundreds. Eduardo at Birmingham City.
That wasn't a last-ditch
tackle.
It was in Taylor's eyes.
Liverpool.
Well, I just think if it's offside, the linesman can put his flag up. If he knows he's offside, like, what's the point of having a linesman?
But then if he makes the mistake...
Then why have a linesman at all?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Is why have you got a linesman?
I think linesmen are pointless now. They don't do nothing. Just flag throwing some corners.
Yeah.
Goal kicks.
That's a conversation that we should be having in a future podcast.
Okay, well, we'll put that onto the list to have. If anyone's watching this and thinks that would be a good conversation to have, let us know in the comments below. We're going to end it there, but just to let everyone know, we are also going to start live streaming these. So as well as the podcast, as well as the shorts, we'll have a live stream where we'll watch a game that's going to be playing. We'll discuss all things football around that match, whilst also giving you updates on the game that's been played as well. So hopefully, all things going well, we're going to start tomorrow, where Everton will face Tottenham, where we will talk about that game. We'll talk about the Premier League. We'll talk about the relegation battle, the top 4 battle in a lot more depth. So those will be live streamed on both Twitch and YouTube. So come over, join us, get involved in the debate. Until then, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure again. Do you have any conversations? Yep. Do you have anything
Can we watch
to
an
add?
episode of Gladiators?
If we get enough likes on this video, let's start the bar low and say if we get 10 likes, we'll live stream us watching an episode of Gladiators.
I think when we're watching Tottenham tomorrow and it's Pony in 30 minutes, we should just find an episode of Gladiators to watch on YouTube.
Just switch
and
it
watch
over.
that instead.
Who knows? We probably will do.
Watch Big John fashion you running around.
Get it on TV Gold.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh.
So, guys, you have anything you'd like to say? Anything you'd like to add before we end it there?
Up the Blues.
The Blues, yeah.
I'd like to know if we get any comments. I want to know who everybody else will put in the Hall of Fame from that list.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So if you're
Sure.
watching this, from the 15 players that I've mentioned, you can also Google it and get the full list. Let us know your top 3 or your 3 votes. And let's also put it in order as well. Who would you put in as your first choice, second choice, and third choice?
I'd like to know in the comments if anyone at any point could tell when I was swiping through Tinder.
Pretty much half the podcast.
yeah, still going now.
Excellent. All right, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I will speak to you tomorrow where we are live streaming the Spurs-Everton game.
Cheers, boys.
See you tomorrow.
Always pleasure, boys. See you tomorrow, lads.
Love you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.